So hello fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And processed information seems to me so many times worse than processed food. Processed information is just basically the information that is not raw, not experienced yourself, where you are there and you are actually a first-hand witness to an event. Unfortunately, it is impossible for us to get raw information most of the time. Most of the time, it's going to be filtered through someone else's life experiences, point of view, what they think are most important to a story or not. Processed information, the worst case of it, is where someone deliberately puts in additives, fillers, things that shouldn't probably even be in the food or the information, sorry. They put it in, and basically it's a lie. And, if you look at any movie, if you look at one of the most amazingly horrible of Shakespeare's plays, Othello, you can see what happens with processed information, the worst of it. Basically, it poisons you against the people around you who may love you the most and would never want to harm you, and it makes you upset with them and makes you want to hurt them. Just like processed food, though, sometimes it's not even meant to hurt you, but it might be just as bad as if it actually was meant to hurt you, and especially if you don't have some raw experiences of your own. We can see in China, we can see in Russia, even in the US, processed information goes by the name of propaganda. And some of those things are not actually meant to deliberately be evil per se. I think many Americans would definitely feel that way. They would feel that, hey, yes, this information has been filtered and prepared, but it's really meant to make me proud of my country and to emphasize the positive aspects of my country and, of course, to downplay the negatives. Maybe some instances completely exclude them. But it's a good thing. Just like processed food, I don't think that most of the time it's ever a good thing exactly. It might be what you have to live with because there's nothing else. If you only have, radio access to the outside world and you're in some area where that's the only thing you can get, and you want to know what's happening, whether it's the weather or whatever else, there's nothing else that you can do about it. That's just what you have to accept. But if you can, it's probably a good idea to get your information, as much of it as you can, from a variety of different sources, like, information food groups. Because a lot of times, even if somebody, let's say they tell you, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you who you are. None of your friends might, some of them who are well-meaning and believe that they know a particular issue and they feel very strongly about it, that issue and that position might become yours. And your friend might be completely thinking that, this is exactly the right position to take on this particular issue. But let's say, for example, in the case of myself, I didn't know people who were a lot worse off than myself, financially speaking. And as a result of working with charity, I had the experience to meet people who were in a much worse situation. They'd grown up in a much worse situation than myself. They were currently living in a much worse situation than myself. And what I would have assumed as to how they might live their life and what they might have access to in terms of things like the internet, things like toilet facilities, things like personal space where they live, privacy. A lot of those things that I assumed that, and not even, explicitly assumed, I implicitly assumed that a lot of these things that everybody would have in this quote unquote day and age. And to see people, ordinary people, that I would see on the streets, that I would meet, in a government facility as an employee, or wherever else I might meet this particular person, and to see their reality unfiltered with my eyes, and to hear of the situations that they were in, or might have been brought up in, or might have experienced, not anything especially graphic, but just their ideas of what, for example, what constitutes, okay, I can't send my kids to school every day. And I was like, okay, well, how often does it happen? And to hear one person say, not very often, once or twice a week. If you'd said once or twice a month, I could understand. But obviously, once or twice a week is a huge disruption in a kid's life. How can they learn anything? It means that a week is 5 days normally for school. One day of the week is 20% of the week. And for that to happen regularly, for people to miss out on their education, 20 to 40% of their education regularly. And of course, the person I'm talking to that's not much. That's huge. And they really didn't have any other recourse. If you looked at the place where they were living, obviously not. If you listened to the kind of jobs that they could find, obviously not. So it was one thing to think that I knew what people's lives were like, and it was a complete other thing to realize that my idea of what people's lives were like was based on the people that I knew, my neighbors, the people that I saw on TV, local TV, national TV, international TV. That's, movies, books. That's what shaped my understanding of reality. And it was, like most information, processed. But there were a lot of important vitamins and minerals that were stripped out of the processing, as a result of the processing, as a result of the sources of information that I had that were, second level or second hand or third hand or fourth hand information about life and what it was really like for some people. So, processed food is pretty bad, definitely. It can lead to, in the worst cases, malnutrition of some kind. It can lead to diseases. It can lead to a lot of problems. But I would venture to say that processed information can be even worse because it can lead to you not realizing, for example, that processed food is bad and what constitutes processed food and why it's bad. And that's one example. Processed information leads to how you see the entire world. It leads to whether your future is going to be a positive one or a negative one, how you view your position in the world. It seems to be orders of magnitude worse than processed food. Processed food might be temporary. Processed information might be permanent. And, with good information, real information, you might be able to completely change your life for the better and be able to take advantage of things that you never would have. So try to get as much information as you can from a variety of different sources, hopefully fresh information. Of course, to continue this analogy, you want to make sure that your information doesn't have any parasites or bad stuff that's bad for you in it. So I don't know how to fit that analogy in, but I'll just go with it. Anyway, guys, you can wish me lucks, you can like or unlike, you can comment, subscribe, and or share. And of course, I don't prefer it, but you can always do nothing. Peace.